Good evening, everybody. I call to order our January 17th, 2023 regular scheduled board meeting. I've asked Mayor Pro Tem Smith to lead us in our invocation and Deputy Fire Chief Jim Jones to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Please stand.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Father, we thank you for the privilege of living in a country where citizens and elected leaders can come together to discuss issues that face our community. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to live in this state and in this individual community, Fuquay-Varina. We thank you for the blessings that you've bestowed on our community. We just thank you for the future that you've laid before us. Father, I pray now as we together as a group of commissioners to discuss issues, to vote on issues, that you'll give us wisdom and guide us, Lord. And I pray that everything that's done and said here tonight be pleasing in your sight. Lord, we ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I ask that Town Manager Mitchell review the meeting protocol for public participation as it relates to this evening's meeting. Manager, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, board members. Good to be with you tonight. Tonight's town board meeting is both in person and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Tonight's meeting contains a public comment period and no scheduled public hearings. The public is invited to comment in person. When it is the appropriate time, Mayor Massengill will call on those wishing to address the town board. All attendees that have appeared in person to address the town board during the public comment period should provide your name and address on the registration sheet by the podium prior to the public comment period beginning. We ask all those wishing to address the town board either during the public comment period or during a scheduled public hearing to begin their comments by clearly stating their name and address for the public record. The public is asked to keep all comments to 3 minutes so that all that wish to speak can be heard in a timely manner. To be respectful of those that may have different views on matters addressed by the town board, we ask all in attendance to respect the decorum of the meeting by refraining from clapping, making loud noises, and generally showing support or displeasure for comments made during the public comment period or public hearings. Police Chief Medina will be asked to escort from the boardroom anyone not respecting the process as it is the discretion of the mayor as presiding officer of the meeting as to whether or not to continue the public comment and or public hearing period if the meeting protocol is not followed. And this concludes the protocol for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Manager. First item of business on our agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from the January 3rd, 2023 Town Board of Commissioners regular scheduled meeting. I have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, hearing no corrections, I'll make a motion we approve the minutes of the January 3rd, 2023 Town Board Meeting Commissioners as presented and recommended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. First presentation we have tonight, item 4A, introduction of Alexandra Bauman, Communications and Marketing Specialist. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Communications Director Weiss. Susan, good evening.
Good evening. It's great to be before you to introduce this wonderful young lady that has joined our staff. Alex Bauman is our new communications and marketing specialist, and she joined us about 3 months ago, and boy, has she taken our department by storm. She has acclimated beautifully. Alex comes to us actually from Campbell University, where she was the director of communications for alumni engagement, and prior to that, she was the assistant director for annual giving at Campbell University. So she comes to us from our neighbors down at Campbell University, and she did a great job for them, and we have got somebody who's got a lot of experience from there. But she was also, she's got her undergraduate from Campbell, but she has a master's from North Carolina State University. But we also get a Fuquay-Varina gal. She was born and raised here. She's a Bengal. But she also brings a really nice, fresh and young perspective to the town. And I think that that's a great thing. We need some youth and enthusiasm. And thankfully, she brings that to us, but she also brings a lot of skills. Alex is primarily focused right now on our digital assets. So what does that mean? It means our social media, and it means our website. And anybody who's looked at our social media in the last 3 months knows that we've upped our game. It looks great. She's done a lot with it graphically. And she's brought a lot from a video perspective. She's got some skills that I didn't have. She makes the video look easy. She's brought reels to Instagram, and we've actually increased our following a lot on Instagram, so that's great. And from a website perspective, in 3 short months, she's taken on the Public Works and the Finance Department websites, which that's a lot of information, and they're very heavily trafficked from a public side, and sometimes there's a lot of information that's very cumbersome. And she's taken that and she's simplified it. People just want to get there and they want to get the information. But that's not all that she's working on. I've got her working on some special projects that are important to our town. It kind of ups our game in terms of communication. One of the things that this board thought was important was to highlight the facilities that we have named after special people. One of those buildings is the ones we're in right now, is the John W. Byrne Building. And Alex has found some software working with GIS to have a map where we can do pop-ups on the facility, and it can give the history of the building and a photograph of the man that it's named after, or any of the facilities. And so she's still working with GIS, and we want to launch that facilities page and the map, and so anybody could go around and use that map and visit all of the facilities that are named after somebody. But that technology can actually be used for other things that we're doing. And so it's kind of a cool pop-up technology. And Alex is actually working, Mark and I sat down with the history folks at the museum, and they had asked us for a little help on trying to promote what they're doing at the History Museum to try and get increased traffic. So Alex is using her skills, her video skills, and she's working with Shirley to do some mini videos, 60 to 90 seconds on each one of the outbuildings, the post office and the Ballantyne House. And we're going to put QR codes in front of each one of those buildings that will take the visitors, and they're probably visitors that are just to the park, but then they get to see these QR codes that will take them to a mini video that tells them something about the history of those buildings that they might not be able to see because they're not getting into the museum if it's not open, and they might be there when they're not. But it would invite them to go to the museum at times when it is, or to take to make a reservation. So they get to learn something about those buildings by the videos that Alex is putting together and working with the museum and with Shirley. So we're trying to bring a little bit of technology in there and up the communications game, and all of this has really happened just in 3 short months. So we feel really good. I feel very blessed to have Alex here and some of her skills. You know, I think it's going really great. So I'm excited to have Alex on board and to introduce her to you. So I don't know if you want to say anything or you know.
Just thank you all for having me. I've met a few of you personally, but I'm sure eventually I'll get around to all of you, and it has been a really great 3 months. I appreciate Susan for hiring me and welcoming to this team, and I've already learned so much. I had a lot to learn, and I still have a lot to learn, so I'm excited to continue my career with the town of Fuquay. And like Susan said, I grew up in Fuquay-Varina, and so it's really nice to be back and to really be involved with the town in a different way than I could have ever imagined. My husband and I moved to downtown Fuquay a couple years ago when I was still working at Campbell, and he's still there. He works there as well. And the ability to walk to work is really cool, and to be a part of the town in a meaningful way is exciting. So thanks again for all of you for having me.
Well, Alex, welcome. You've hit the ground running so far with Susan, and as you know how fast our town's growing, and communications are important out there for our citizens to know what's going on. And I know you come well prepared, and being an NC State graduate, and Susan wore red to celebrate you tonight too, so that was very kind of her, big State fan that she is. And so, also, not only as you mentioned you live in downtown, but you've been involved in our community, and you were just recently in December, your home was on the home tour, the Christmas home tour. And so not only do you work for the town and live in the town, but you're involved in the town outside of work too. And so that's great. We're glad that you're here, and our paths have crossed several times already, and you're doing a great job. And so I look forward to meeting everybody up here, but welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Welcome.
Next item on our agenda, recognition, Karen Warner, the Diversity Leaders Intensive Certification. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Community Resources Director Moody. Hey, Wendy.
Hi, how are y'all?
Good evening.
Good evening. I appreciate this opportunity to, first of all, to introduce Karen Warner to you. She is our recruitment and selection coordinator. She has been with the town for about 7 months. And just so you know, we hired approximately 175 full-time and part-time people last year. And so it's obvious that this role is much needed, and so we do appreciate you allowing that in the budget. But the reason why we're here to talk about Karen today is that she has received a certificate for the Diversity Leaders Intensive course that she's taken. Let me pass through here. She was offered a 4-day, 28-hour instructor-led virtual certification training. The program is designed to give expertise training and tools to implement effective DEI programming. You had to score at least a 70 or better on a 50-question exam, and Karen made 100% on that. And she had to do a DEI project. So moving forward, I'm going to turn it over to Karen so she can talk about some of her ideas and what she learned in the class.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you all for having me here, and again, joining the team and growing for the town of Fuquay. Moving forward, the way I want to, my idea to implement this is attend HBCUs, veteran job fairs, and other professional organizations in which to recruit diverse talent. Seek out diverse professional associations to advertise our jobs. So get them out there to those different job advertisement boards. Develop a interview rubric, which would hold some standardized scoring across the board, and implement additional townwide DEI training for all of us involved in the organization, and collaborate with other HR and DEI professionals to look for ways to be more diverse and inclusive. So those are some of my small, simple ideas at this time.
So we're excited that Karen has achieved the certification, and we look forward to moving forward. And like I said, we'll be looking into additional trainings and rolling that out to the rest of our employees. So I just want to present her with her certificate of competency. And so I just appreciate the work that she has done. She had to get this certification within the first 12 months, and she obtained it within 7. So she is a go-getter, and we really appreciate her.
Karen, you've hit the ground running too, involved with human resources and getting the certificate. Just as Wendy mentioned a moment ago, you could have skated by with a 70%, but instead you aced it with a 100. And so that's important to be able to stay focused here with our employees. And so thank you for not only doing what you were required to by your job, but doing more than the minimum right there and excelling at that. And so we appreciate you here and that you're going to help our organization move forward. So thank you for continuing to better yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Susan, would you come over here and take a picture, please? Board members? Thank you. Next item on our agenda is a proclamation in regards to Black History Month. You know, yesterday was Martin Luther King Day, and there was a celebration that was put on by the Cultural Arts Society of Fuquay-Varina, and in conjunction with many individuals within our community. Started out at St. Augusta and then walked down to Bridge Street into Academy Street to Falcon Hut. And there was a little bit over 300 people in attendance there that walked, and then also attended the ceremony at the end in recognition. And it was a great organization that put it on. And you know, as COVID has allowed more movement in our community, this event really came back roaring strong. And so, you know, talking about that last year at the Martin Luther King event, it snowed and ice. I don't know if y'all remember that in this room there at the time, but everything was canceled and could not do that. Well, this time the sun was shining bright here in Fuquay-Varina. It was not snow and icy. And at the time I'd said last year that I did a mayoral proclamation that declared February as Black History Month, but also I promised I wanted to do more to honor Black History Month. And so this year I formed a stakeholder group that started meeting back in 1st of December. And this group will be recognized not December, a little bit before that, September. This group will be recognized at our next board meeting. And so this group is made up of individuals, of people that are, two board members that are in here, Brian, Commissioner Haynes and Commissioner Harris, that are in here on this board, and then also some town staff members and different individuals that are involved in our community. And so it was a great group. And so what the group came up with is, let's have a video series, and it's called Celebrating Fuquay-Varina's First. Fuquay-Varina's First, Celebrating Black History. And this series is about African-American achievements in our town, and this will be shown through our social media platforms, and these videos will be housed on our town website. And this is starting the first full week of February. And so in this series, it's Fuquay-Varina's first, some of the first ones that have done things in our community. For instance, William Freeman was the first black man elected to the Fuquay-Varina Town Board. And the Fuquay Consolidated School and New Providence Church that was established in 1860. These were some of the first items in our town. And the series provides us with information about the town's first fireman and the town's first police officer, also at the same time, first black fireman and black police officer. And so tonight the next meeting is when I'll be bringing the stakeholder group back here at this time to introduce them to everybody and thank them also for their involvement. But our next board meeting will start 1 week into February, and I thought what better time than the day after Martin Luther King March, but to go ahead and read this proclamation that will go into effect on February 1st. And so our meeting that starts later from that. And so here I'm going to read my proclamation. Whereas each year, Black History Month is observed in February, and whereas the origins of Black History Month date back to 1915, when Dr. Carter G. Woodson founded the organization known today as the Association of the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas the town of Fuquay-Varina continues to work toward becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their contributions and potential contributions to our community. And whereas the town of Fuquay-Varina will present the video series, Fuquay-Varina First, Celebrating Black History, to help inform, educate, and raise awareness of African American achievements in our town, and to celebrate the impact of Fuquay-Varina's pioneering African American community leaders and institutions. And whereas the town of Fuquay-Varina is proud to honor the history and contributions of African Americans in our community throughout our state and nation. Now therefore, I, Blake Massengill, Mayor of the town of Fuquay-Varina, do hereby proclaim February 2023 as Black History Month. Encourage all citizens to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is more peaceful and prosperous for all. When this series gets released, a new video will come out on each Tuesday and Thursday of the month. And so I encourage everybody that's here and everybody in our town to watch these videos and see what you can learn. I learned a lot about our community at the same time from this group. And these are the type of storytelling that are fact that's going on in our community. And so everybody can learn from these events and these firsts and what they have achieved over time. You know, our next board meeting, this stakeholder group will be here for Black History Month, so thank you. Next item on our agenda is the public comment period. At this time, the town clerk will call on individuals that are in attendance and have registered to address the town board prior to the meeting. The public comment period is a time for the public to address the town board on any matter that is not the subject of a scheduled public hearing. Those speaking are asked to begin by clearly stating your name and address for the public record. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in order that all who wish to speak may be heard in a timely manner. About to say Rose. Teresa, you have anybody signed up?
Brian Babcock is the first one.
Brian, come on down.
Good evening. Brian Babcock. I'm here to represent Samantha's Jewelry at 516 Broad Street. My concern tonight is around the proposed social districts. So please bear with me. I've just learned of the proposal, so I'm going to have to muddle through this on some of the previous comments. As I watched some of the videos in previous town meetings, there's certainly some items of concerns that I'd like to highlight and provide my perspective on. Some of them, I guess, are head scratchers to say the least. Let me first start by the drag shows. I don't think that has any relevance on the social districts. That certainly has what people do behind closed doors is not a big concern of mine. I certainly appreciate the comments by Reverend Gordon to protect our children, but I would argue that that's more of a parental issue than a governmental policy issue. Some of the real concerns, though, that were touched on, let me just provide my perspective on some of these. The traffic. Traffic safety. There's people touched base on the 18-wheelers. I would argue that 18-wheelers are the least of the worries. I think more of the frustration of people driving through the heavily trafficked area and people learning to drive via Grand Theft Auto is more of a concern than 18-wheelers. Pedestrian safety. In a lot of cases during the day, crossing the street, at least in the Varina side, is much like a game of Frogger, trying to get through without trying to get hit. There's people touched base on promoting underage drinking. For me, if there's a will, there's a way. I think that people need to try to control that and govern it. As far as the social districts, that will certainly enhance the ability to, I don't know how you can control that. If there's a will, there's a way, that's going to increase. Overconsumption of alcohol, drinking and driving. I mean, that's certainly an issue. There's a comment about no business would risk their license to overserve. I can tell you by being downtown, that's just not the case. There's been numerous cases, a car get in and drive off, just praying that they don't kill somebody on the way home. So the question is, does it not happen? Or the question is, what's the increase that's gonna happen by the social districts? Man, I'm running out of time. So the challenge that I have here is that, are these the real issues, or are there other issues such as traffic and parking? I think the town's own survey, you did a survey a couple years ago about parking. Nothing's changed on parking. The
need you to
ability
finish
to
up your thoughts,
grow,
sir.
I'll finish
Or
up. The
3-minute
the
mark.
ability to grow downtown is going to be largely dependent on people's ability and willingness to fight traffic and find a place to park. And I'm not sure how
thank
enabling
you for
the
your
Drake
comments.
will
Appreciate-
support that.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you, Brian. Teresa, do you have anybody else signed up?
Reverend Paul Jones.
Mr. Jones? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Paul Jones, and I live at 1427 Stone Line Drive in Fuquay-Varina. Thank you for the privilege of coming and just making a public statement or two in reference to some things that may happen in our town. And I just want all of you to know that I really enjoy Fuquay-Varina. I have been living here probably 54 years now, and it's a wonderful place to live. Seated where you are now, so many people in my congregation would love to be seated where you are, because you've limited me to 3 minutes. They would like to limit me to 3 minutes in my church. But anyway, to go on and talk about what I want to comment is the fact that it has been brought to my attention that social distancing has been discussed. Please take this serious. Please understand we want our town to be better and more prosperous in every way. But we've got to draw some lines. And this will not help growth. It will not help our town. Now, the thing that I'm speaking about is the role of the minister in town, because the minister must deal with those that become intoxicated. And so therefore, already with what we have going, I'm busy doing this, hurting children, hurting wives, hurting families. And in the last 2 weeks, even with what we've got, the consumption of alcohol has kept me busy several hours with several individuals who's been abusing what we've got. And so what I am saying to the town board that I respect so highly and thank you for your job is, should this come back on the agenda, please weigh it out and think about what it's going to do to hurt Fuquay rather than to help Fuquay. I plan to live here until the Lord calls me home. And I'm so glad when I leave the city limits of this town to go to other places, I'm proud to say I live in Fuquay-Varina. Thank you for the privilege of speaking.
Thank you, Reverend. Proud of Fuquay-Varina myself. Teresa, do you have anybody else?
Susan Oliver.
Susan, welcome.
Susan Oliver, 721 Valley Water Street, Fuquay. I'm going to share my research of social district concerns in North Carolina. Data as of November 21st of 22, only 21 out of 760 towns and cities in North Carolina have approved social districts, which is only 2.8%. At that time, Raleigh was the only one on the list in Wake County. Wake Forest voted no on January the 3rd of 23. Residents worry about controlling alcohol consumption on the streets and negatively affecting the town's personality, including increasing the chances for people to litter. Pinehurst voted no on November the 10th of 22. Wendell There's a question we have about Main Street because you do sometimes see people drive through here pretty quickly. And if you increase foot traffic, that may well lead to some accidents. A commissioner said he thought the social district might harm the charm of the town. He also said he wants to avoid having businesses feel pressured to participate in the social district for fear of losing business. He said, I just don't like the idea of just having a downtown where people are just walking around with open containers. New Bern. People come to our little historic small town because they love the smallness of it. They love the history of it, but have concerns of rebranding the area and illegal activities it could bring. We would ultimately be responsible for any type of rebrand to direct people into the feel of a party town or like a Mardi Gras type of environment, and that is not the intent of the social district and not ever going to be our mission, said the executive director of the Craven County Tourism Development Authority. Elon, December of 22. An off-duty police officer said alcohol violations are already quite common in Elon's downtown area. In 4 hours, 50 citations were written for underage drinking in open containers. He said, I'm for the expansion of doing things, but I'm also for safety too. And I think the more you open it up, the more problems you create. A council member asked if any data existed on the effects that social districts have had on this scourge in other communities. It was conceded that the practice is too new to have produced any reliable figures. The first social district started in late 21. Waynesville, March of 22. They said, well, we may need more bathrooms, shops may have to stay open later. Consider the growing number of people who live in upstairs apartments over Main Street and to those who are morally opposed to alcohol. The police chief admitted that there could be enforcement challenges with the homeless population and those who are brown bagging versus those legally carrying drinks in labeled plastic cups. And one last concern, a personal concern, is what about issues that may be associated with open or concealed carry of firearms and drinking? Because I know there are laws about those things, but thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Teresa, do you have anybody else?
Yep. Thelma Mann.
Thelma, welcome.
I'm Thelma Mann, 1329 Bass Lake Road, Holly Springs. My comments are in reference to the social district. In previous Fuquay Town Commissioner meetings, we have heard many comments about the district. Many of the establishments that serve alcohol are in favor of the social district. And I ask you this, there are warning labels such as do not drive on prescription and non-prescription medication and drugs. Don't these same warnings apply to alcohol consumption? I and others have spoken with Fuquay business owners and the Fuquay community, and I will tell you very straightforward, the overwhelming response that I got was no to the proposed social district. I had some people tell me they did not want to be quoted or whatever, so I will not do that. So what I have done, I have generalized responses, and they are. We already have many establishments serving alcohol. No need for it to be in the streets. It should remain as an individual choice. Serving alcohol around and throughout a district will not benefit retail businesses, barber shops, beauty shops in the Fuquay downtown area. Creating a social district on the basis of alcohol consumption is not in the best interest of the overall community. Another person, potential liability, 401 runs right through Fuquay, Broad Street runs right through Varina. The concerns, as someone said earlier, traffic congestion, excessive speeding, inadequate parking are primary concerns of business establishments, the local community, and people traveling through Fuquay. And I'm gonna give you a live example. This was not planned, it just happened. This past Thursday, I was in Varina, crossing from J&S Pizza over onto the other side of the street about 3 o'clock, and a couple were walking in front of me, maybe 10 feet at the most, and they were crossing over on the crosswalk. I was coming. I saw a car heading west, and I could not move 2 people, and I didn't know what to do, so at an angle, rather than get right in front of them, I came at an angle, and I did like this. The person stopped. I don't know if the person was impaired, but I do know this. I saw that person look up when they stopped. I could see through the window here and on the front window, they were actually on their phone. The phone was laying in their lap. Okay, so this is a live example. So what I'm saying is the danger is there right now in crossing the streets, and this is without having a social district. So my question is, can we imagine if people and drivers were intoxicated? There is no way to check every person in a social district before they get into their vehicle. However, they can be checked if they're, or monitored if they're in a licensed alcohol place. I'm personally not opposed to alcohol. I don't, if you are, that's your personal choice.
Family yard, time mark.
I'm out, okay. For the record, one thing I think we need to know. The overall consensus is we need to redirect, get traffic flow and parking and public safety under control. That in itself will bring Fuquay traffic, or actually foot traffic to Fuquay.
Thank you, Thelma.
Thank
For
you.
your comments. Teresa, do you have anybody else?
That's all. No more.
Okay. Thank you all for joining our meeting tonight. You're welcome at any meeting to speak at any time or send any comments you have to any board members up here. This item is scheduled for our agenda at the March meeting per previous tabled motion, and that's when the board will be planning to take up action on it at that time. There are currently no previous tabled items scheduled for tonight's board meeting. There are no public hearings scheduled for tonight's board meeting. We do have a consent agenda. What is the board's pleasure on the items on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 8A and 8B as presented and recommended.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. First administrative report, item 10A, resolution amending town personnel policy in regards to teleworking. More information about this agenda item will be presented by Human Resources Director Moody. Wendy, twice in one night.
I know, it's unheard of.
It is.
So thank you for giving me the honor to come up and speak to you guys about this. As you know, we implemented teleworking back in when COVID happened, and I think the whole world realized that a lot more people could work from home. And so during our recruitment and selection of positions, it's been a little bit more challenging because people do not want to give up that. So we decided to look a little bit further into what we could potentially do. The purpose of a telework policy is workplace flexibility supports teamwork. It's innovation, creativity, it promotes positive impact on employee morale. Service delivery, we found out that it did not change. In some cases, it actually improved it. Reduce carbon footprint because less people are traveling back and forth. So that's being good stewards to our community environment. Enhance recruitment and retention. Like I said, we had people that were turning down jobs because they couldn't work from home. And so this will definitely help us recruit more people to come work for us. So additional considerations were it must not be detrimental to customer service, to our citizens, our staff, or residents. Okay? So that's always going to be first and foremost. Remote work will be, sorry, I'm a little short, so it's a little harder to see up here. Considered on a case-by-case basis. So we obviously have positions that are not open to telework. There will be potentially departments that won't have anyone teleworking as well, even some in administrative offices that may not participate in that. Employee must complete probationary period to be eligible. Telework can be considered at any time if it's in the best interest of the town and for the department. Work hours must be the same as regularly scheduled hours. So we want to make sure that there is no interruption of service to our customers, whether it's internal or external. Then remote work has to be performed at their home location. So you can't just pop up and say, well, I'm going to go move, or I'm going to the beach for 3 weeks and work from there. Any variance from that has to be approved by their director. And so we know where they're going to work at. We have to make sure that they have a safe place to work. They must have proper access to broadband, which is determined by IT. They will set the standard for that. IT will not reimburse or support personal equipment, so they have to use town-provided equipment. Town management can terminate telework at any point in time, and if their telework ends, that all town equipment must be returned. And so we do have a checklist that the employees are going to have to go through, this very detailed, that talks about their safety and their environment, what resources they have available, and how they will be responsible for securing any information that they have. And so at this point, you know, if you have any questions, I'm open to any questions that you may have about our telework.
Wendy, what are some examples of some people that you would be teleworking on a temporary basis or permanent basis? Are you foreseeing having an employee that would permanently stay at home and do everything remotely? Or
At this
how do you
point in
envision?
time, no, we are not considering 100% work from home. So we're looking at 2 to no more than 3 days per week. Each department will have a day that each person has to be in the office so that they can have any staff meetings or training or any type of group activities, or if meetings really need for them to be in person, they could be called in at any point in time, even on those days that they're scheduled to work from home.
What is the most common type of job you see somebody using teleworking?
Obviously, it's going to be the administrative roles, but not administrative, but administrative as in this building typically. The admin people that deal front-facing to customer service, they will be required to be here. They will not be able to work from home. So like in HR, we may have one person that may want to telework. The others they prefer to be in the office. You could have someone in engineering that could work from home. So each director will determine if they are going to participate in that. And then the employee has to fill out a request form saying what they can do at home well, what they can do at home better, what things they can't do at home as well as in the office. And then the department head will make a decision based off of that, whether or not that they should be recommended. Then if anyone's being recommended, it's going to go before the appropriate town manager for approval, and then IT will make sure the call is on their broadband to see if it's accessible.
So the director first has to approve and agree and see the need for that and not affect service. And at the same time, if somebody starts abusing this policy, the director will be reviewing
Yes,
that.
and there will be increased communications with the employees. They can set standards, like if we're going to have touch base at least twice a day, you could say we're also going to do a Teams video call, not just a phone call, just to make sure that you're where you're at, you're doing the work that you need to do. The communication is supposed to be at least minimum to where you are currently in the office, to even more so because you're going to be away. There has to be performance measures to making sure the work is getting done.
And I have read how recently some of the companies have really revised their home policies where some people were staying at home 5 days a week and requiring office time. I think Disney was one of the largest corporations that revised their policy here recently. So I think it's good to have flexibility, just as you know already, and departments know, is to, if somebody uses it and losing productivity, they're going to be terminated pretty quickly.
Absolutely, and like I said, we want to make sure the new employees come on board and finish their probationary period, and that way they're also developing relationships within their department, because the last thing you want is someone to stay at home all the time and not develop that relationship, and make it a whole lot easier for them to walk away.
Well, I can see certain plan reviewers, certain, as you mentioned, some administrative roles of data analytics being a little bit more flexibility. Somebody, as you mentioned, front desk and finance taking payments, or a building inspector out there, engineering inspector.
Yeah, they have to be
Obviously, a
here.
policeman is going to have a tougher time telecommuting in.
Sanitation workers have to be here, you know.
That's right, certain ones of those. And so
But anyone who
I
has
just think-
direct, face-to-face with outside customers will be required to be here.
I think, and you're going to do that, you're going to stay on top of them and make sure that nobody's abusing this and being effective.
Absolutely. Like I said, we've lost some pretty good candidates based on the fact we didn't do any teleworking. The other thing about teleworking is if they have children at home, they have to have appropriate childcare. So it's not going to be in lieu of childcare. You have to have someone to take care of your kids.
Because you
like
got a few,
work.
as we would know, you got a few bad apples out there that spoil it for the good apples.
There's always that.
That's always what happens, yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I just, go ahead,
Mayor Pro
Commissioner.
Tem, go ahead.
I'll give you.
Commissioner Harris, go
I'll
ahead.
surrender to Commissioner Harris.
Just one question. Would you talk about security as far as information, confidential information or data for individuals working from home who may have to work with that kind of information?
Yes, sir. What's your question?
Security, are there security measures in place to protect data or any confidential information an employee may have access to who will be possibly working remotely?
Sure. They will have to sign a confidentiality agreement and also make sure that if they have any paperwork that is locked up, they don't have free access to just sitting in the living room where other people come in and see. We'll go through the guidelines that when you walk away from your computer, you hit the Windows and the L to lock your computer. And just like they secure their data here,
Okay,
they will be required to do it there as well.
okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Question, Commissioner Harris. Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
My question is very similar to Commissioner Harris's. We're talking about security again, and everybody in this room that's ever worked with me knows I'm very technologically challenged. And don't laugh, Director Clark, I see him grinning back there at me already. My question would be the security, for instance, if I'm at home with my workstation that the town provides me, how secure is it going across my internet provider, or do I have to have a different type? How does that work, to have that type of security?
There is a VPN that you're logging in through, and so I know Director
Okay.
Clark can speak more to that, but I know we currently already have that in place.
Okay, so that's
And they
already
do
in
set
place.
that up on each laptop.
I see him shaking his head. I know he's very up to date on computer safety, but I
He's
just
probably
wanted to
proud
make
of
sure.
how I answered that as well.
I think he is.
And I'll add to that part of IT's review will be that that they have the appropriate equipment to do their job securely. For example, for data security reasons, they would be doing this work for the most part, and for every part, when there is sensitive data, we'll be doing that on town-provided devices that have all of the security software that VPNs into our system, that connects into where the data is actually stored, so there won't be any of this, emailing files back and forth outside of our secure network.
I didn't think there would be, but I didn't
They'll be
think there would
logging
be,
in
but I
from a
wanna make sure.
town device into the town network as if they were in the network here.
Okay.
So that security of information and privacy of information will remain just as protected as if in the office.
And just know that all the directors, town management, the HR staff, IT staff, finance staff have all signed confidentiality agreements, and they're in their personnel files as well.
Okay. I just wanted to, for my own understanding, make sure we have that in place.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from board members?
Okay.
Not, entertain a motion.
Mayor Massingill, I move that we adopt by resolution an amendment to the Town of Fuquay-Varina personnel policy incorporating standards to the teleworking policy as presented and recommended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in
Second.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Wendy, for your time.
Thank you, and I appreciate your efforts to allow us to be better at recruiting and retaining our employees.
That's the key, keeping our best employees and getting ones to complement what we have too.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney.
Next item on our agenda is other business. Item 11A, manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things just to share with the board this evening. As it pertains to our police department, our Fuquay-Varina Police Department successfully passed the North Carolina League of Municipalities Risk Review Program. This is something that we've been spending the better part of the year developing and polishing up our policies to make sure that they meet the best practices and best industry standards. And a short while ago, the league came in to do their assessment of our policies and procedures, and we successfully passed this program. And so Matthew Selves, who has been before our board in the past to talk about this program with the North Carolina League, will be attending one of our future meetings in the not-so-distant future to provide a report of their findings to the board. As it pertains to our fire department, weather permitting, Station 4 construction will continue to advance. Underground plumbing and electrical work are being installed, and the slab for the decon building is scheduled to be poured here soon. Additional work on the horizon includes block laying for the decon building next week and pouring the concrete slab for the apparatus bay next week as well. So again, weather permitting, progress will continue to be made on this project. There were some extremely cold days over the holiday season, as well as some wet days, and so the contractor did get behind a bit on that, but they're trying to catch up and stay on schedule as best as possible. As it pertains to our Parks and Recreation Department, Ed Kaczynski began work as the public buildings superintendent with the town. In the first week of youth sports spring registration, the town received 1,747 total registrations, which is the most registrations received in the opening week of registration. So there's no secret that our youth sports, parks and recreation youth sports are a popular offering, not only for Fuquay-Varina residents, but for residents that live in surrounding areas. And so, as you know, and as we've discussed, and as we'll be discussing more in the future with our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, field facilities are going to become a more and more important need for us as this growing popularity continues to trend forward. Public Works, Vidal Winston was recently hired for an open sanitation collector position with the town, and his first day will be on January 30th, so we welcome him as a member of our team. And all Christmas decorations were removed after the holiday season successfully. And so I want to thank our Public Works staff for working hard to get those down and stored away successfully for the year. The Art Center winter maintenance projects have been completed, and Noche Flamenca kicks off the spring theater season on January 28th, and it is sold out. We're continuing our trend of sellouts from the previous year. Eduardo de Rosamaria's Noche Flamenca is a night out in Spain. Performers from Venezuela, Guatemala, Puerto Rico, Spain, and North America will showcase traditional performances for an authentic flamenco experience right here in downtown Fuquay-Varina. So pretty neat event. Our finance department has directed their focus to the fiscal year 24 budget and the 5-year plan development process, so that's underway. Public Utilities, David Barber started today as the new wastewater treatment plant operator, so we welcome him to our team. Focus remains on system maintenance as well as negotiating the terms of the interlocal agreement for the regional water supply project, which is a complex and but a very important process that we're going through. As a matter of fact, members of management, finance, public utilities, legal staff spent the better part of a day last week in Sanford with partners on our water project, hammering out the details of an interlocal agreement that will likely be coming to this board sometime in the March timeframe, I expect. Economic development related, the downtown generational plan kicked off today. We had a meeting with our consultants, McAdams. The meeting involved staff representing management, downtown development, economic development, planning, engineering, public works, GIS, Parks and Recreation, and Communications. The structure of the meeting was to establish an understanding of existing conditions and goals, and the meeting also involved an extensive walking tour on both the Fuquay and Varina districts today in the rain, chilly weather. So it was an interesting walking tour, but thanks staff for spending the time with the consultants to go out and talk more specifics out in the field with our downtown. Much more is to come on this very important study and plan for our town, but this was just a kickoff of it as we've gotten here into the new year. Tomorrow night from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Community Center, representatives from the Planning Department and the Transit Consultant will host a study workshop which the public is encouraged and invited to attend and has been promoted on the town's website, social media pages, Let's Talk FV, and our weekly email distribution letter. So if you as board members are available to stop by during that time frame, or you know anybody that may have an interest in the transit study, please encourage them to do that as we are wrapping up the public input component of this analysis. We are well underway in putting together materials for our town board retreat next month, and it's shaping up to be a very full agenda. And so more on that to come in the future. I do want to just mention that Commissioner Harris served as the town's voting delegate for the North Carolina League of Municipalities legislative goals, and he submitted 10 legislative goal preferences on behalf of the town that address water and sewer infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, public safety, and local revenue tools as some of those goals. And so a very important process because the League of Municipalities is one arm of advocacy for cities and towns, ourselves included, with the North Carolina legislature as they have begun the long session of the biennium session, and they will be advocating on our behalf. And so these goals are very important for the league board to establish and for the league staff to have some directive to be able to go out and work on our behalf. We as staff are continuing to work with the Triangle J COG, Council of Government, on grant identification and writing assistance. And so when opportunities present themselves for us to submit grants, we're doing it. We're trying to go out there and get as much funding as possible to offset public investment. And then just one last thing to mention, I won't mention it other than to just remind the mayor, we had a very productive meeting with Representative Perret this past week on some of the town's goals as well. The mayor can speak more to that during his comments. Quarterly report is included in your agenda materials, and I encourage you to look at the trend data for a number of our metrics that we evaluate on a quarterly basis to see how we are trending compared to our budget and our the data that we use to help it with budget formation. The comprehensive system-wide master plan for parks and recreation, there's 2 public input opportunities upcoming. The first is on Wednesday, January 18th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. and this will be at the Community Center at 820 South Main Street. And the second one is on Saturday, January 28th from 12 to 2 p.m. at the Pine Acres Community Center at 402 McLean Street. So we encourage anyone that has an interest in our community about the future of our parks and recreation system to come out and give input and be involved in a part of these public input processes. So if you know of anyone in the community, or you just generally want to share this with people who might follow you on social media or that you engage with, please do share with them these 2 important public input dates. The more input we get, the better plan that we'll be able to put forward to the town board as a recommended plan. We want to make sure that it certainly tries to address community need and what the community's goals are, and the way we do that best is by getting the community involved in that process. So we hope to have good turnouts at both of those events. And then we do have our next Coffee with a Cop at Brews on Main, 135 South Main Street. This will be on Valentine's Day, so Valentine's with the Police, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And with that, I have no additional comments for the board. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board members might have.
Board members have any questions? Okay. The planning board's getting ready to start heating back up with things coming on their agenda. That's going to lengthen our meetings a little bit.
It will.
Things starting to play catch up from the holiday break. So brief meetings will not be the normal.
That's right.
Okay. Commissioner Gardner, any comments?
Just special recognition for these women who were recognized here tonight for coming on board with us and getting extra training and to help them do their jobs, and thank you so much. We look forward to having you work with us for a long time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Harris, any comments?
Just brief comments. I appreciate the town manager mentioning about those legislative goals that will be advocated by the North Carolina League of Municipalities, and I would encourage each commissioner to review those goals because the input will be ongoing, and the process will be that the league will, at its annual meeting, vote to support those legislative goals. So if you have an opportunity to review those goals and any other feedback, certainly would be appreciated. I think the selection process for those top 10 goals are on point. The league has a very strong legislative advocacy component, so it would be helpful if we can get further feedback as needed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Harris. Commissioner Haynes, any comments?
Just yesterday, it was a wonderful Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. The weather was just right.
Oh, yeah.
The program was very, very good. The walk was very well attended. I definitely enjoyed the spoken word artists who depicted John Lewis, Fannie Lou Hamer, Mahalia Jackson, and
Thurgood Marshall.
Thurgood Marshall, thank you. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. So definitely thank the Cultural Arts Society of Fuquay-Varina, definitely our town staff. We had some hiccups that morning, but our town staff are so wonderful that they made it go so smooth that people didn't even know some stuff had happened. So thank our police department for keeping our people safe. I know he was leading it yesterday, and they even shouted you out. I don't even know if you heard it, but definitely, I definitely enjoyed it. Just to have the conversation, I tell people all the time. Really, the best part of being a commissioner is having those conversations with the community, and having those conversations as we were walking about so many different topics in the town of Fuquay just makes your job even better, and just to see the input and the that people in the town of Fuquay are so interested and invested in our town, and just that just excites me. And I've been having meetings almost every day with just citizens who just want to know more, or who just want to give their input. So I definitely thank those citizens, and as always, I thank our staff. Our staff makes our job easy. I know we sit up here and make votes all the time, but they're the ones who really do the work, and they definitely should get all the credit for it. So I definitely enjoyed yesterday.
Thank you, Commissioner Haynes. Captain, everybody stay safe yesterday, and recognize y'all at the event also. And so thank you. Just as Commissioner Haynes said, it was a great turnout, and went off perfect from a security standpoint. So thank y'all. Mayor Pro Tem Smith, any comments?
No comments tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. As manager mentioned a moment ago, Representative Prey and I and Adam met last week to go over the start of her new term. And just as Commissioner Harris mentioned a minute ago and Adam about our focuses right here, she's working hard for us at General Assembly and understands our priorities and where we need money at and helping our community. And so that was a very good meeting right there, and excited to bring some more grants and some more money and some more funding back to our town for the General Assembly, and that makes a difference right there. A few individuals I want to recognize tonight. Some citizens. These are a variety of different employees in a couple different departments that citizens reached out to me over the past week and want to make sure that these employees knew they were appreciated and what they had done to make a difference in these individuals. And so on January 10th at the Northwick subdivision, approximately 11:30 p.m., Officers McClannon and Officer Wrench responded to a domestic disturbance, and the neighbor called me to let me know how quick the police responded, how professional they were, and understand the neighbor was in a tough situation with a domestic disturbance. And so I want to reach out to these two officers and tell them thank you for their response and their professionalism that night. It meant a lot here in Fuquay-Varina. Carolina Gardens subdivision yesterday had some vandalism done to it, and I received an email in regards to Officer Diggs, Rosty, and Northgrave, which helped clean up the graffiti and vandalism at this neighborhood, which is above and beyond their duty. Not only did they investigate the incident, but also helped clean it up. And so this individual wanted to make sure these officers were thanked for what they did, going above and beyond. And I, as mayor, appreciate what they've done also. In our sewer department, right here in downtown on Spring Street, individual had a sewer issue, sewer pipes break, and from our sewer department, Charles Pleasant, Chris Way, Jason Newman, and Jonathan Joyner responded there. And the citizen wanted me to know how much they appreciated their professionalism and courtesy and how hard they worked to get that issue resolved right there. As we all can understand, sewer issues is not something fun to have going on at your house, and that can upset you quick. And so this individual reached out to me at the end of last week, and I said I'd make sure they were recognized and appreciated. So Mr. Director Wagner, Chief, if you please let those individuals know right there too. And I encourage anybody in our community to please let myself or anybody on this board know. We love recognizing when somebody's had a great experience, and our staff deserves it. So thank you for these 9 individuals here this past week. That's all I have tonight. No further business. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion. We have motion second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, tonight.